Hey guys, so I haven't made any videos for a while. The reason for that is Modern was pretty stale due to all the Eldrazi. A lot of the time online you would either play against only Eldrazi or you would play against only decks built to beat Eldrazi, which was not fun for me. And Standard at the end of the format tends to get pretty stale, so I also wasn't interested in that. But now we have Shadows over Innistrad, we have modern bans that have come in, so I will be back to recording videos pretty regularly for the next month or so at least. So today what I have for you is a standard deck, which is a Sultai blue-black-green deck based around basically Vessel of Nascency and Traverse the Uvenwald, which give you a lot of ability to run random cards in your deck, but still draw them consistently. So we've got a lot of 1 and 2 ofs in here that I will explain in just a little bit. So first let's look at the mana base. It is a couple of Lumbering Falls and a Hissing Quagmire. So we've got some man lands. We have Evolving Wilds to fetch all these basics. We have some Llanowar Waste and Sunken Hollows just as regular dual lands. And then we have these 2 Blighted Woodland and 3 Drownyard Temple, which are lands that are going to give us a little bit of a spell-like effect. Provide some mana ramp that is uncounterable. The Drownyard Temple we can mill with the Vessels or sack to the Gitrog monster and everything like that. We've also got the Epiphanies that can mill them. And then the Blighted Woodlands are just going to come down. Maybe it's turn 5, we use them immediately. Maybe it's earlier, we just use them for mana. Maybe it's really late and we use them immediately. But I was running Blighted Fens, but Blighted Fen is very bad against the human-based decks, and the Eldrazi decks are running a lot of like Thopter tokens, so the Blighted Fens were not hitting reliably. And the only time I really wanted the Blighted Fens was against the transformed Westvale Abbey, the Ormondal Demon, and if they had just 1 extra token that wouldn't work. So we've got some sideboard for that guy. So let's look at the deck. First we have Traverse the Ulvenwald, which on turn 1 or 2 will go and get you a basic land card so you can make sure you keep hitting your land drops. And then later in the game it will go and find you one of your big creatures, or it will find you a Lumbering Falls against control, or a Drownyard Temple to feed to the Gitrog monster. Just has a lot of versatility. The Vessel is like a slightly more expensive, slightly more reliable version of that card. It also is good at helping you hit your land drops. It's weaker later because you're not looking through your whole deck, you're just looking at the top. But it's also reliable. You just want to make sure you hit your land drops. You really want to get the Gitrog monster out turn 5, maybe a little bit earlier. And then you want to, after that, you want to keep drawing land to feed to the Gitrog monster so you don't run out of lands. I generally don't ever go below 4 lands in this deck, even if I keep the Gitrog monster out, because the deck just is so good at drawing cards that it's not an issue. We've got, for some removal, we've got 3 Deadweight, 2 Ultimate Price, and 1 Dragonlord Silumgar. That's not a lot of removal, especially with cutting the Blighted Fens that I had, but the creatures you have access to in this deck are very large, and a lot of them have Vigilance or Death Touch, so they're really good in combat. And you also have Pulse of Marauders that gain some life to offset damage you take early when you don't have a removal spell. So let's look at some of the cheaper creatures. We've got 4 Sylvan Advocates and 3 Tireless Tracker. This is going to be your main creature action in the first 3 or 4 turns of the game. Both of them are like average size for their mana cost, but both of them can also get bigger just with you doing things you want to do, which is playing lands and drawing cards. So we've also got a pair of Nissa Vastwood Seers, which you can run out on turn 3 to just go grab a land, and then you can get them back from your graveyard later with several other cards, like the Pulses or the Seasons Past, if you want to turn her into a Planeswalker later. I think it'd be fine to run a third one of these. You don't need 4, and you'd probably be fine with 1. We've got also in the 3-drop slot, we've got 2 Pulse of Marasa, which can buy back your Evolving Wilds or your Blighted Woodlands. This deck very, very much wants to hit land drops just over and over and over again. It's just, the life gain is also very good on this card. Even in the control matchups, a lot of the control decks are winning with Chandra now. So if you gain 6 life, you're basically flogging them for a turn while you buy back something like Gaia's Revenge or Gitrog Monster to put pressure, or get back your Dragon Lord to just take their Chandra and start putting pressure on them. Finally, we've got a change that I just made to the deck. I was initially running 3 Corrupted Graphstones, so let's look at Corrupted Graphstone real quick. So Corrupted Graphstone is a 2-drop, which I really liked for this deck, and it did make mana fairly consistently, but it didn't really tap for blue mana very often. So if I needed to have a Dragonlord Silumgar or an Epiphany at the Drown Yard, it wasn't doing that very well. Weirding Wood, I also don't have any 4 mana cards, so it's not like ramping from 2 to 4 was a pressure point on my mana base, whereas I do have a lot of 5 and 6 mana cards, so ramping from 3 to 5 does a lot of work, and the Clue token also synergizes with Tireless Tracker, and we're also gaining the ability to tap for any color regardless of what's in our graveyard. Additionally, I was having some trouble with Days Undoing decks. I don't know if that's going to be a big part of the meta going forward, but whenever they would cast Days Undoing, it turns off your Corrupted Graphstones, and it also turns off your Delirium, so the deck kind of stumbles a little bit for a turn or two every time they cast a Days Undoing. So I wanted to reduce that a little bit. The downside to cutting the Corrupted Graphstones is you don't have any artifacts in the deck, so Delirium's just a little bit harder to hit. Notice that we only have 5 instants, and well, actually we have 2 Pulse Marasa, so there's 7 instants. There are only 4 sorceries that stay in the graveyard, so Seasons Past won't stay in the graveyard. So really you're going to look to hit instant, enchantment, land, creature is going to be your Delirium for Traverse the Ulvenwald, and if you can get a sorcery in there, then you're fine. If you can get an instant, you're fine. Generally, you're not going to hit Delirium just from Vessel, so I don't want to include anything like Moldgraph Scavenger or any of the Delirium creatures. Or you might think, well, maybe we should run Mindrack Demon, but we're not hitting Delirium regularly enough for Mindrack Demon to not kill us. So that's the early drop. So let's look at the top of the curve. We have tutor targets. We have 1 Dragonlord Silumgar, which is your answer to creatures as a tutor target. I was running a Guiltleaf Winnower, and it was fine, but you know what? I just rather would steal their creature than just kill it. Additionally, against the humans deck, a lot of the times they will, because this deck is good at stalling the board, they will get like a 7/7 Thalia's Lieutenant, and Guiltleaf Winnower can't kill that because it's matching power and toughness, whereas the Dragonlord will steal it, and then you can start bashing them with their own guy. And then we have Gaia's Revenge, which can be countered and is hard to target, especially now that Abzan Charm has rotated out of the format. Sultai Charm has also rotated out of the format. So Gaia's Revenge is just going to come down, and it's usually a 2-turn clock against control decks, and they either need blockers or sweepers, and most of the blockers they have are not going to do the job. So we have 3 Gitrog Monster. Gitrog is kind of your engine. He's the reason I wanted to build this deck. He synergizes with Vessel, with Evolving Wilds, with Blighted Woodland, with Drownyard Temple, with the Epiphanies, and just with playing lands. He also works with the man lands. So with the Sylvan Advocates and the Gitrogs, you're getting really rewarded for playing just this handful of man lands, and you can traverse for them later in the game. But the Gitrog is going to come down turn 4 or 5. You can come down turn 4 off the wood, and usually will be the biggest thing on the board. Even if they block him with a bunch of 2/3s and 3/4s, he's going to eat all of them because he has Death Touch. And if you untap with him in play, he's going to start drawing you cards. Additionally, there's a trick where you can just play the Gitrog and then immediately play Evolving Wilds because of the extra land drop he gives you, and sack it to draw a card and get a land. That comes up fairly often. So Gitrog is just good value for your mana. You spend 5 mana, you get a 6/6. He's got sort of a drawback, but it's a drawback that draws you cards, so it's more like just a draw than a drawback. And he's just a giant frog monster that eats people, so that's all you need him to do. Then finally, we've got some late game draw spells. We've got 1 Seasons Past, which this generally gets you a removal spell, a land, and 2 creatures. That's what you're expecting to get out of this. If you get better than that, it's great, but you're generally just using this as like a draw 4 that only hits 1 land, which is a pretty good card. Like, it's a 1 mana more expensive Tidings that occasionally has upside, but then again, it's bad against Days Undoing, so you really don't want to play against Days Undoing with this deck. Even if the deck it's in is bad, it's still really annoying. And then we've got 3 Epiphany at the Drown Yard, which you can cast this for 2 mana to just draw a card. It's probably going to be a bad card, but if you need to hit your land drops, you can make an effort, and they might not know you're short on land. But where this card really shines is where you're spending 5 or more mana for it, and you're basically going to draw 3 or 4 cards at instant speed, maybe even more. Like, I've cast this for 8 mana to draw 5 cards. This is not a Fact or Fiction. Fact or Fiction works differently and is a very powerful card. What I have found that this card basically does is it mimics the effect of Blue Sun Zenith or Stroke of Genius or cards like that, where you're spending X mana plus a chunk to draw X cards. This is cheaper on the spell because it's just X and 1 instead of X and 3 like those two, but you're not getting all of the cards, so it's still basically equivalent. So whereas Blue Sun Zenith for 8 mana, you draw 5 cards. Epiphany at the Drown Yard for 8 mana, you also will probably draw 4 or 5 cards. Sometimes it's like they can't give you Dragonlord Silumgar or Seasons Past, so you'll draw like 6 cards and mill a Seasons Past and a Drown Yard Temple. But most of the time you're just trying to play this late in the game to draw 4 or 5 cards. And additionally, if you need to hit Delirium to turn on a Traverse, you can cast this for all of your mana short of the Traverse mana, and it puts an instant in the graveyard for sure, which is generally the type that you're missing, and turns on Delirium for you, so you can go and tutor for your Gaia's Revenge for next turn or your Dragonlord for next turn. Let's go ahead and look at the sideboard. We've got some extra removal here. So for the humans decks, we have Languish, 2 of. For the Ormondal decks, or anyone with Avacyn, we have 2 Clipwings. Clipwings is kind of awkward against the Collected Company decks because they really generally only have Avacyn. It gets slightly more reliable as a removal spell if they also have Bygone Bishop, but if they do, then it's hitting Avacyn less. So really what you want to do is rely on the Languishes, and then if you draw Clipwings, it's just helpful. Against the token decks, which are mostly Eldrazi based now, but occasionally you see the white-black ones. With Gideon and Secure the Waste, we have the Virulent Plagues. And so that's the removal spells. We have a enchantment removal spell for the Fevered Visions Chandra's Goggles decks. This is something good to bring in. You only need 1 because you can usually turn on Traverse the Ulvenwald if they are making you draw extra cards. And if they are making you draw enough extra cards, you might just hit the Naturalists. Against the decks like Ramp, we have 4 Pick the Brain. I think against Ramp specifically, Pick the Brain is a improved Transgress the Mind, because if you are on the play and their mana is awkward, you can sometimes take their 2-mana spells. And if you have Delirium, you can just get rid of like all their Dragon Lord Atarkas, all their Chandras, all their Ulamogs, whatever one they have been holding on. And it's especially good against World Breaker, because World Breaker would just come back if you played something that discarded it. But just like Transgress, Pick the Brain always exiles the card. Finally, we have a Kalitas, which you can bring in. He's really good against the Collected Company decks. They usually will have to use a Reflector Mage on him, and then you can just play your Gitrog monster, which will stop the board up, and then next turn you can replay the Kalitas. Note that against the Collected Company decks, we're going from 0/4 drops to 3/4 drops. That is a matchup where it's important to have a good curve of spells and threats, because they will be doing things on the early turns. So we want to focus on having 4 drops for that match. And against decks that are running either a lot of removal that exiles, so we don't want our stuff to get exiled. So Declaration in Stone is common, but some decks are also running the 6-mana sweeper that makes an angel if you have Delirium, and some decks are running Stasis Snare. We have a couple of negates so that we can stop the removal spells and keep our guys in play instead of sending our guys to exile forever. If they're running a lot of Chandras and Ob Nixilis as their threats in a control deck, you can also feel free to bring in the negates. But most of the control decks, I think, are still on dragons as their threats of choice. You do see Chandras in the Goggles deck, where I would bring in the negates as well. So that is the deck. Here's another chance to look at everything. Well, let me put these back here. So here's the deck. If you want to take a screenshot, we'll sit on that for a couple seconds. And then we're going to hop in some 2-man queues, if Modo is working correctly, which it appears to not be. Okay, here we go. So we do not want to play Modern today. We want to play Standard. We want to play the Sultai Gitrog deck. And queues. Okay, so we're not new to Magic Online. We are going to play the normal one. We're going to play against RJ Hendricks. Not a name I recognize. Let's close this down. Let's pop out Graveyards. This is 1 mana short of keeping, so let's go ahead and send that back. This is actually fine. The deck is base green, so what's really important is that you have green mana. You're really only running blue for the late game, and black is for your removal spells. Okay, so we have a basic island, so let's go ahead and play the Hissing Quagmire. This hand is for a 6-card hand. Slightly better than average. I'd like to have a removal spell instead of this Epiphany, or maybe instead of this Gitrog. Okay, so the opponent's going to be milling us. So let's go ahead and just not play the Epiphany. We're hitting our land drops. We're going to play Tireless Tracker. We are halfway to Delirium already. Okay, let's see what this hits. Okay, so we have 3 card types. We have hit a Drownyard Temple. Drownyard Temple is a good hit for us, because that means next turn we get to make a Gitrog monster. This is not a deck that I've seen before. Manic Scribe Mill is a new thing, so I don't know how this is going to work. Looks like opponent is spell-based if he's got Thing in the Ice. In blue and red, I'm more worried about the Gitrog monster being tapped or being bounced than I am about it being killed. I could also counter it. Horribly Awry wouldn't do it. So here's what I mentioned earlier about you play the Gitrog after your land, and then you immediately sacrifice Evolving Wilds. I'm going to go ahead and get a second forest here. A lot of the time you don't want to fetch your basic forest. You want to get your swamp or your island instead, because you want to make sure you have lands in the deck for Nissa to fetch when you play her. But this doesn't look like it's going to be one of those games. This looks like it's going to be either we're going to get locked out by something, or we're going to just crush them with monsters. Okay. Let's draw for the turn. Okay, so Seasons Past seems very good against the mill deck. Let's go ahead and play Llanowar Waste. We have 6 mana, which will turn on Sylvan Advocate. Can we play Sylvan Advocate and attack with Quagmire? Yes, that is how that works out. He could horribly ride this. He does not. We are not vulnerable to Engulf the Shoreline right now, and he can't play it unless he wants to bounce his Manic Scribes. Okay, so that's half his life is gone. We've got lethal on board if he doesn't do any blocks. Roast on Sylvan Advocate. Okay. Okay, we're going to sacrifice Drown Your Temple. I'd like to draw a land here. I think I want to use Seasons Past this turn. Okay, Pulse of Marasa, and for the turn, Sunken Hollow. Okay, actually, what do we get back? We get back Tireless Tracker, Ultimate Price, Evolving Wilds, Epiphany. That's actually not that good. So let's go ahead and attack with the monster. I'm expecting him to chump. Does not chump. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a Tireless Tracker, play a Sunken Hollow, get a clue, then I'm going to attempt to Pulse of Marasa the Evolving Wilds back into our hand. Okay, so he's got negates. Next turn he can flip the thing in the ice, but we don't die. And we have sort of roundabout access to a removal spell. We also have this to block. Okay, he's going to Geist Blast the Tireless Tracker, and then we'll see if he flips the thing. He's not doing it as a sorcery speed, so he doesn't want to attack with it. We have double black without it, so let's sack the Llanowar Waste. Okay, there's Traverse the Ulvenwald. What's our best 4-mana creature? I don't want to animate Manlands because he might have an instant to flip the thing when we attack. I think what I want to do is... Okay, so we drew a land for the turn. Let's play that. Then I'm going to go ahead and attack and force him to do something. So let's see if there's an instant. There's not an instant. There's a chump blocker. So now we can make a 5-mana play with Traverse, but all that would be is a second Gitrog monster. What I'm going to do, that leaves us a green. I'm going to put Weirding Wood on the island. I'm going to tap the island for 2 green mana, play a Vessel, We don't have an enchantment in the graveyard, so we're going to sack the vessel. Let's grab a Blighted Woodland. Now we put enchantments in the graveyard. Now we draw a card with the Gitrog. There's a backup Gitrog. Let's play around the X and a blue counterspell. Let's traverse for, I think, Gaia's Revenge. Actually, Gaia's Revenge and Dragonlord Silumgar are both good here. I'm going to get the Gaia's Revenge because it's uncounterable. So that was a pretty good turn. Let's see what he does here. He can't tap out to flip the thing. Or at least he can't tap out with it and then attack because we'll just kill him with Gaia's Revenge. Okay, so let's sack this extra forest. Draw a card. Draw for turn. Okay, so gonna tap down for Gaia's Revenge. 3 more. So he needs something here, or we're gonna make him chump with both creatures. So I'm expecting Thing in the Ice to flip here. Block, block, instant. Yeah, well, there's gonna be an instant here. Okay, so Geist Blast us. Bounce everything. Oh wow, doesn't bounce the Gitrog. Look at this little frog horror we got going on here. Yeah, it's kind of random which creatures in Innistrad are horrors. Like, it's not consistent. I guess anything that is a big scary monster that's not a werewolf or a vampire or a spirit or whatever is a horror. But like some of the zombies are horrors and I think some of them are not. Maybe just the blue ones are horrors. So now he's got a flipped Thing in the Ice. So let's go ahead and sack this Blighted Woodland. Deadweight is not enough to kill any of his guys. So this will not let us do that. Let's just do this again. So my guess is that he's going to either tap down my Gitrog monster and chump the Gaia's Revenge, or he's going to chump the Gitrog monster and trade with the Gaia's Revenge. I don't see us having Gaia's Revenge in play after this turn. Yeah, so there's that, and chump. He has another instant. Fiery Impulse plus Geist Blast. Okay. That's absolutely fine with me. So like he's going to clear all of our guys here. And he's going to have a Manic Scribe in play. He still doesn't have Delirium. And he's playing completely off the top now. We're down to 22 cards, so we do need to kill him in a reasonable time period because he now has Delirium. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to get back the Seasons Past, and I'm going to grab that ultimate price. Okay, so we have basics left in our deck. Sorry. We have basics left in our deck. This is what I want to do. We've used 1, 2, 3, 4 forests. I think we have 2 left. No swamps. We definitely have 2 left, and this is the only island. We can take a turn off to bring back Drown Yard Temples, but I think I want to... resolve Seasons Past while we are doing this. So let's get Basic Forest, one an untapped land. Let's get Gaia's Revenge, Traverse the Ulvenwald, Ultimate Price, Tireless Tracker. So here's our draw 5. Let's play a forest. Let's Ultimate Price this guy. So now we're not under any pressure. I'm going to discard Weirding Wood, Epiphany. Okay. Deadweight might be a dead card in this matchup. We'll have to see what else he has. Okay, so we can't kill that with Deadweight. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 mana. We can Gaia's Revenge him and Traverse for Dragonlord Silumgar. Or we can play Nissa, Gitrog Monster, Traverse for Dragonlord Silumgar. I like the Gaia's Revenge play. Let's bluff Dispel. Okay, so we're going to attack. See if he uses any mana. Okay, he's just going to take it. He doesn't have another way to answer this. Okay, so it's good that we won game 1 because I expect the opponent to bring in Fevered Visions. So we're going to bring in negates for the Fevered Visions and Conclave Naturalists. We're going to take out... Deadweight looked like it didn't do anything. So we can take out all of those. I want to leave in the Gitrog Monster because it's a horror. He had Fiery Impulse, so Tireless Tracker is probably weaker. And then do we want to have all the Epiphanies or do we want to bring in a Kalitas? Kalitas gives us some life gain against Fevered Visions, so let's try that. It looked like he wasn't making us trade 1 for 1 a lot with our removal until later in the game, so we're not going to need to be drawing a bunch of cards. So 2 Epiphanies plus a Seasons Past should be a reliable draw for this matchup. Okay, so we've got green mana, black mana, Traverse for an island. This is a pretty good set, or a pretty good 7-card hand. I'm gonna just forest and get island immediately. Oh, especially since we drew a second Traverse for later. This will let us play island turn 2 and hold up negate for Fevered Visions. Once Fevered Visions is in play, unless we can get our Conclave Naturalists, it's very difficult for us to beat it because our hand naturally fills up with all of our card advantage. So we want to keep it off the board if we can. Opponent is AFK. Okay, so let's get that 1 island and pass the turn. If he doesn't play anything next turn, I guess we can play Lumbering Falls and that uses some of our mana. or we can Epiphany for x equals 2. So we do have some options. Looks like there will be no Epiphany or no Fevered Visions. So our options here primarily are, I think, play Nissa or play Lumbering Falls. And since we're not under any pressure and Nissa is stronger later in the game, I think I'm just going to play the Lumbering Falls and pass. Next turn we can play Llanowar Wastes and pass. Next turn we can play Blighted Woodland, pass if he does nothing, activate it, and then we should have no problem holding up Negate. Weirding Wood, interesting. So, Weirding Wood lets us hold up Negate. We can play Drownyard Temple and put the wood on the temple, but if he counters us on the Weirding Wood, then we don't have mana for Negate. I think it's probably unlikely that he's going to counter a Weirding Wood, so I'm just going to go for this. Oh, he is countering it. Okay. Yep. So if he plays Fevered Visions here, we're probably going to lose. We're part of the way to Delirium. We can Epiphany to hit Delirium and then Traverse for Naturalists, but that's going to be rough. Goggles. Okay, Goggles we can deal with. Goggles is going to give him card advantage, but it's not going to kill us. So he's going to draw up to 6, but notice that we're already at 6, and we're going to draw up to 7. And we're going to play Nissa, go to 6, get a Forest, 7, and hold up Negate. Actually, can we flip Nissa next turn? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can flip Nissa next turn with Negate backup, so I'm going to try and do that. There's a Fevered Visions. I'm going to try and counter it. He might have another Negate. He does not. Okay, so this game is going about how you want it to go post-board versus the Goggles deck. I don't know if the Manix... Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Okay. We have 3 card types in the graveyard. Blighted Wood will give us 4. Yeah, we should be able to blow up. I'm just going to use this Epiphany now. He doesn't know that we have Traverse, and if we hit Delirium... Oh, we perfectly do. Okay, so we want Evolving Wilds and Llanowar Waste by themselves. This is going to put a land in the graveyard either way. We're going to hit 6 mana either way. Okay, so he knows about the Llanowar Waste, so let's play that. Let's go ahead and get our Naturalists. Alphabetical order. Blow up his Fevered Visions, and we also have a threat in play. Next turn we can play Nissa and flip it, or transform her. So yeah, I wasn't sure if this was the Goggles deck because I haven't seen the Manic Scribes yet. Can this mill... No, it can't mill yourself because that would turn on Delirium. Okay. Okay, so now we once again have Negate backup for Nissa. So let's play all this. Let's keep an eye on our graveyard. He milled both of our ultimate prices, so we have no removal spells in the deck except for the Dragon Lord, I believe. He did not mill all of our forests. Okay, so this is a Void Shatter, which we're going to negate. We're going to play a forest. We're going to play Evolving Wilds. The reason we play Evolving Wilds is if he had a Fire Impulse to cast on the Nissa, we can respond. Okay, so there's a Dragon Lord. He has a Wandering Funeral, so I'm not going to attack. But I am going to play this Vessel. Okay, so we're doing alright here. We have as many cards as our opponent, but a lot of them are lands. But we are pretty far ahead on board. So probably the best card in his deck at this moment he thinks is going to be Chandra. Okay, so is this going to be a removal spell and then attack with Fumarole? That would be pretty reasonable. Okay, so he's going to Geist Blast, copy Geist Blast. And then it looks like, yes, he is going to attack with Fumarole. I was worried about Roast, which is why I didn't make a token. That may have been a mistake. Okay. Yep. Attack Nissa. No blocks. Nissa dies. He's done for the turn. Let's go grab a swamp. Gonna mill us. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So with a land in hand, we can afford to pop the Vessel before we play Silumgar. And all we hit is more Vessels, and unfortunately we mill our Seasons Past. I am gonna take his Manic Scribe. So let's see what his answer for Silumgar is. Okay, we milled 2 Roasts. That's actually not good because Silumgar has flying. We'd like him to draw those Roasts. This is 4 mana. Undo. Another Fumarole. Scoot this up. Okay, we are down to 23 in library, but we still have Gaia's Revenge in our deck. So let's go ahead and Vessel to try and find Gaia's Revenge. You can also find a Gitrog, that wouldn't be bad. Okay, another Nissa or a Sylvan Advocate. I'm going to take a Sylvan Advocate. That is all of our Nissas gone. We have Pulse of Marasa. We have... There's one. We have 1 Pulse of Marasa left. 4, 5, 6. We cannot play the Advocate and attack with Lumbering Falls. So we can use that. He knows about the Sylvan Advocate, but he doesn't know we're going to cast it. I'm going to go ahead and bash with the Dragon Lord. The only thing I don't like about Dragon Lord is it takes a decent amount of time to kill them because it's only 3 power. But if we can stick another threat, that should be fast enough. Going to sack his Cataract. That's fine. We do need to be careful about Fall of the Titans. I think that is what we're most worried about right now. And oh, he has Startled Awake? Interesting. So this may not even be the Fall of the Titans version. Maybe he's relying on Mill as his kill. Okay, yeah, it looks like he's got Sphinx's Tutelage, Startled Wake, and Scribe. So he's just going to try and mill us. We do need to make sure we don't die to like double fumarole attacks a couple turns in a row. Okay, there's a Gitrog. Let's go ahead and play a Forest. Let's count this mana up. What can we do? 1, 2, 3, 4 for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we can attack with the Lumbering Falls and the Dragon Lord and the Advocate. This leaves back Advocate and Scribe as blockers. It's going to take all the damage, which is expected. Now we can play the Gitrog monster. Play a Forest. We're done. So I'm trying to think of what sweepers he might have. Kozilek's Return is not a red spell, so the goggles won't double it. And Radiant Flames, he only has 2 colors, so it won't kill anything that we have except for his own Scribe. Okay, here's an interaction to be aware of. When he has Sphinx's Tutelage and he mills a land, the Gitrog draws a card. That is not optional. The Gitrog actually speeds up his kill with Sphinx's Tutelage. But I think at 15 cards we're safe unless he has something really good. So let's see what this is. It could be like draw 3 cards. That probably kills us. No. Pyromancer's Goggles. Draw from Jorian. Cast Tormenting Voice. That probably kills us. Okay. So we can't say no to this. We're just going to auto yield. Maybe I shouldn't have cast the Gitrog. So let's see what he has as his last spell. Thing in the Ice. Okay. Thing in the Ice. We might actually be able to beat. So let's go ahead and sack Drown Your Temple, draw Drown Your Temple, draw Traverse. I'm going to go ahead and see what we have left in our deck. Nothing that Traverse can find, nothing that does anything except for Pulse. So if he doesn't die here, then we're dead. But I think we have just enough because he can't block the Silumgar that we're going to kill him. Yep, got him. Okay. So we were able to keep Fevered Visions off the table, and that let us beat a Goggles deck. I think the Mill is actually better against us than the Fall of the Titans would have been. I'm not sure about Chandra. But let's go ahead and jump in. Well, I might want to add another enchantment removal to the deck. Let's see what we face next turn. Or this one. Well, if this one takes a long time, we're not going to play a third. But let's just see how this works out. It could be an aggressive deck. They could get mana screwed. The games could go quickly for several reasons. We're going to be on the draw. This is not playable. We want to hit our land drops. We also need some spells. This is very good if he's aggressive. We're on the draw, so I want to play a turn 2 Nascency. Yes. So we're going to go Forest. Okay. This could be a Gitrog mirror match, which when I was playing the non-blue version of this deck, just solid green-black, I was beating. And Really, the main difference would be that in that version, I had more removal spells main deck. So depending on their build, that may or may not be relevant. Okay. So he does not have a Sylvan Advocate. That is good for us. Let's play a Deadweight in case, or a Swamp in case we need to make 2 Deadweights next turn. And we will just pass. We already have 5 mana, so we don't need to take a land off of this vessel unless we get a Blighted Woodland or some other land, like a Lumbering Falls, that would be doing extra work. Would be good for us if he played like a Tireless Tracker. Okay, so he's got red. Okay. Just pop this vessel now. Yeah, I'm fine with Weirding Wood. Second Weirding Wood. We have all the mana in the world. Which we might just be sacking clues next turn. Let's go ahead and F8. Evolving Wilds. It does look like a Gitrog deck. There is a late Sylvan Advocate. Okay. Let's sack a clue. Yeah, this is not going well. He would have played Tireless Tracker there if he had it. So I'm just going to 2-for-1 myself to get the Sylvan Advocate off the table. I could just let it sit around as a 0-1 Vigilance, but if he plays like an Explosive Vegetation next turn, if he turns out to be the ramp deck, we don't want to let it turn into an actual threat again. And even if it has 2 Deadweights on it as a 4/5 and it's not doing any damage, it's still buffing his Quagmire. I would like to draw a Gitrog monster in the next turn. One of our Epiphanies or Seasons Past would not be awful. And even Tireless Tracker would be fine. So here's Gitrog. Okay, not Gitrog, Obnixilis. I'm not sure if that's easier or harder to beat. Depends more on what's in his hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go ahead and try to draw a Sylvan Advocate. No, more lands. It'd be very embarrassing to lose to an Obnixilis emblem. When I was playing the green-black version, I had Ruinous Path instead of Ultimate Price, which obviously would be a better draw here, but was worse against the human stack. Let's see what this is. Okay, so he's got a demon. He's got 3 card types. This deck looks like just a standard Jund good stuff type thing. Oh my gosh. Please something. Ugh. Okay, I guess we're gonna just have all the mana. Like, unless we draw exactly Gaia's Revenge, he is gonna ultimate this Ob Nixilis, and I don't know that we can beat that when we're not doing anything. We have 3 card types, so we can just bring back this Drownyard Temple. Yep. And I'm holding this Evolving Wilds because if we get Gitrog or Tireless Tracker, it will draw us cards. Kalidas. He's got Den Protector and Sylvan Advocate, so Languish might be reasonable. Nope, we want to do this. Bring back Temple. Mana, yeah. 4, 3, 4. I'm off this. He hasn't seen anything that we're doing except for, like, graveyard stuff. Okay, so I definitely want Pick the Brains. I definitely want Negates. I do not want Deadweights. I think I do want Ultimate Price. Let's just run 2 Pick the Brains. I really only want them for Chandra's. And we'll cut a Tireless Tracker and a Pulse. I don't think we have room for Languish. I'm going to wait to see if it's better. If he has Death Mist Raptor, or if we see a lot of other stuff from him. Okay, we're going to mulligan this. And we're going to... Oh, man. Yeah, this is just not enough. He keeps 7, we go to 5. This is... Okay, top. Okay, so he traverses, gets a swamp probably. We're going to play a forest. We are going to save the vessel. No reason to use it at instant speed when he can transgress us. Which he does. Probably takes the Weirding Wood. And I think after he takes the Weirding Wood, we lose the game. So let's see what we get. Okay, we're going to take this island and reanimate this Drownyard Temple. Like to draw a black source. Okay. Yes, so we're not going to reanimate the Drownyard, we're going to cast the Weirding Wood. So now if we hit an untapped land, we can cast the Gitrog. Next turn, sack forest, draw, reanimate Drownyard. Okay, he reads the bones. So we're kind of both picking up card advantage here. Okay. We can sacrifice the clue. If we hit a land, we can reanimate Trimple. If we miss, we can get Advocate. That sounds good to me. I'm going to go ahead and use this Evolving Wilds. If we were ahead on cards or other resources, we could try and hold the Evolving Wilds, but I very, very much want to play this Gitrog as soon as possible, because our best chance of killing him is to just rush him with fatties that he cannot remove, and it's going to be much harder to do that the longer we let him draw cards off of his deck. Also, if he happens to have Pick the Brain, I don't want him to enable Delirium and exile both of our Gitrogs, which is something that could happen. Most people seem to still be on the Transgress the Mind plan, just for mana efficiency reasons, especially if you're heavy on 3-drops like Read the Bones. But I like the extra value that you get for your mana with Pick the Brain. Still 2 mana away from buffing the Advocate. Okay, let's go ahead and attack. Trying to think of what the removal would be that would hit the Gitrog monster. Ultimate Price doesn't do it, Roast doesn't do it, Fiery Impulse doesn't do it, Grasp of Darkness, Spatial Contortion. I think our best bet is just to run out a monster. Okay, so he's going to make us discard Gitrog. He's going to get back... Oh, he's just going to shock us? That's fine. If that's an issue, if he can deal with this Gitrog monster, but this does nothing while it's in our hand. So, the only removal spell I think that would really cleanly kill the Gitrog is Obnixilis. And if that's what he wants to do... Okay, Ruinous Path does it. Alright, fair. Fair enough. And Transgressor Weirding Wood. Okay, so we are drawing off the top. We have a threat in play. We have a removal spell in hand versus our opponent's 4 cards. And once we reanimate this temple, we'll be even or ahead on mana. Okay, so there's our removal spell gone. At this point, I would like to draw... I think Seasons Past. It would only be a 4-for-1 actually because of the Evolving Wilds. Okay, is this another Ruinous Path? Okay, Nissa. That's unfortunate. Did he play a land this turn? He played Swamp, so he can't transform Nissa this turn. He has his own Sylvan Advocate that is buffed. We will buff our Sylvan Advocate, and we will pass. And from here, I think we have 1 turn to draw anything relevant, 2 turns to draw Seasons Past or Epiphany or Silumgar, and then after that we lose. It also depends what he does with this Nissa. If he draws with it, we can draw a removal spell, which would be just our other Ultimate Price, I believe. Ultimate Price or Silumgar. So we're still in this game, but we're behind, which is generally true when you're at parity but the opponent has a Planeswalker. If he attacks, I'm not going to block. Okay, so he doesn't attack. That means he doesn't have Fiery Impulse. We have Delirium. So let's see what's in his hand. Oh, gross. Okay, that's unfortunate, but like at the same time, if it had been Transgress the Mind instead, it does the exact same thing. We know we have extra mana this turn. And so he's got these. He cannot attack. We can't attack. He's drawing all lands. We have stuff in our deck that's relevant. What is this? What did he draw for his turn? Okay, he's going to animate Quagmire. Okay, I'll take 4 here. Come on, good stuff. Guy's Revenge is also probably fine. Ultimate Price is fine. This kills his Advocate, shrinks his Quagmire, lets us eat Nissa. Okay, if we attack, we take 6. I'm fine with that. So Ultimate Price was one of our better draws. Well, actually, we don't take 6 because we have Vigilance. Sylvan Advocate is a good card. Okay, so he's going to chump, which is fine. So we are now under very little pressure, but we do need to kill the Nissa because he's going to outdraw us. Also note that with the 2 and the 3, I guess we had an Ultimate Price. So with the 3, Seasons Pass, it gets better. He has a lot of good draws left. Kolaghan's Command would be a good draw. Kalidas is fine. So he can play Kalidas and hold back Quagmire. And then we probably can't pressure Nissa. But he also can't attack. Again, he can't attack. So let's see. Okay, Lumbering Falls doesn't do nothing, but it's not great. Lumbering Falls lets us clear his board or eat Nissa next turn. So we need to dodge a removal spell for 1 more turn. Okay, Duress does actual nothing until we hit or draw a spell. Also, at this point, Silumgar on Nissa looks good again. Okay, this is a lot of mana. This is an Obnixilis. If this is an Obnixilis, we lose. Dragonlord Atarka. I think we also lose. So this is just like a Jund mid-range good stuff deck. Just Jund him out. Then now he can pump Kalidas and bash. Okay, so that's that. Yeah, we didn't do anything like either of those games. So I'm going to play one more. Hopefully not against the same guy. Although, if we play against the same guy, maybe our deck will actually do something this time, and we'll see how the matchup actually works. I should have paid attention to what that guy's name was. So we win the die roll. This is a pretty good hand. We have Traverse, Vessel to hit land drops, and some removal. I'm going to go ahead and cast the Vessel instead of the Traverse. It's always better to use Vessel when the mana is not, when you're early on and your mana is not as important, because Traverse is so much more efficient later in the game, and also more powerful generally. Okay, Forest, so let's see what he plays. He plays nothing. We play Swamp. We're going to pass. Vessel should also find us a land and turn on Pulse at the same time, which is pretty good. Okay, green, white. Let's see what he plays. Humans. This is probably a humans deck. It might also be just some budget brew. So I'm going to use my mana for the Vessel this turn and not the ultimate price. Because if he is humans or maybe Collected Company, then he should have scarier stuff. Okay, so let's grab the island. We could grab the Deadweight, but I want to make sure we hit our lands. We put the Sylvan Advocate in there to get back with Pulse later. There's a second Pulse. And I'm not even going to use the Deadweight. I'm just going to play the Tireless Tracker. If he wants to Declaration in Stone or Stasis Snare our Tracker, I don't mind that a lot. And I think we may just Pulse to hit Forest, which would... No, that would take one out and put one in, so we wouldn't have Delirium. Okay, this looks like it's just a budget, like, draft leftovers deck. So this is not going to be a useful video, but it'll give you guys a game to watch. So if you just care about being competitive in Standard, you can probably stop watching here. Thanks for watching the video. Comment if there was anything you liked or disliked. If you just want to watch some games of Magic, let's play some games of Magic. Moto's not acknowledging my clicks sometimes, so that's a little annoying. Like I said in game 1, you want to make sure to leave some forest in your deck for Nissas to find. So I went and got the swamp. We now also have Delirium for future traverses. And we're going to play Gitrog Monster. This guy has a lot of renowned cards. I wonder if this is a intro pack deck. That maybe he just bought an intro pack and wants to play it in some 2-mans, which good for him. That was a mistake. I should have played the Llanowar Waste, because now when I tap it for black to play the Deadweight, I'm going to take a damage. So we drop all the way down to 25. And we're going to do some passing. Next turn, in response to the Gitrog's ability, I'm probably going to tap a land to sack a clue before I sack that land, which will beef up our tracker. And then if we draw a land... Actually, that's interesting. If we do that, we don't have enough for Pulse for Advocate. We'll see. We'll see what he does. Let's fight. Okay. So now it's not as important to sacrifice the clues because we're not going to be pumping the tracker. Really? Well, I'm definitely going to block the Castellan. Okay. This feels very much like a Magic Origins intro pack to me without knowing all the lists. Um, so let's just eat this Llanowar Wastes, feed the Toad, draw a land, draw a Dragon Lord. Yeah. I think our opponent is playing a stock list for an intro pack. I could look it up, but that kind of feels like cheating to me whenever I look up somebody's list. So we're just going to play it out. He might just concede here. And they could at least give the people in the intro packs the good Evolving Wilds. This is, in my opinion, the worst Evolving Wilds art. Because all the other ones for it are very, very pretty. But then for core sets, they always use this one. Outland Colossus. Ultimate Price Colossus. Yeah, that's okay. Like, honestly, this is a card that is almost good enough for standard. If Ultimate Price didn't exist, it'd be really hard to kill this thing. So we're going to sack this. That was a mistake. I should have tapped that for mana because I know I'm going to Ultimate Price this turn. And the mana might matter. Okay, so let's feed the Toad. Hit another land drop. I'm not going to attack with the Dragon Lord. I just want to play this as safely as I can. I think I have enough advantage that it's going to be hard to lose, so I don't need to like give him any special anything that can kill us. Just play conservatively and we should win. The farther ahead you are, the more conservatively you want to play when you're the control deck, is generally the rule of thumb that you go by. Okay. And he overpaid by one. Maybe he has like a buff spell to put on it. I can get back the Drownyard Temple. Or I can pulse, or I can eat clues. I think I just want to get back the temple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get back the temple, and then I'm going to tap it for mana in response to the Get Rogue trigger, and sacrifice a clue. Okay. So what do we want to do here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's play the Drown Yard Temple. I don't think I want to Nissa this turn. I have other things to do with my mana. So we're going to do this. This is going to get all the forests out of her deck, so Nissa won't find any. But at this point, I think that's fine. No, I want to keep that back to block the Angel. So he can double trade with the Gitrog here. And then I think he's pretty dead next turn. Okay, so that's fine. Gitrog eats his mans. Gonna go ahead and play a Sylvan Advocate. And so now we have 3 lethal attackers on board. 1, 2, 3, plus a Dragon Lord if he does any damage to himself with a Pain Land or something that he might not be running. Okay. See, that's a good card. Is that a human? Yeah, that's a fine card. That is not a good card. But like every card that he has played has been from Magic Origins. So this is just 100% an intro pack. Card's kind of like a weaker Sylvan Advocate. Like, should just cost 2. Okay, so he might just concede in sideboarding. We're gonna bring in Languishes. We're gonna bring in Kalidas. We're gonna take out I'm trying to decide between Weirding Wood, Epiphany. Actually, Guy's Revenge is not good against these creature decks. And let's take out one of each. Is there anything else that's bad? Yeah, this looks fine. So turn 2 play, turn 3 play, Vessel. This is fine. One of the ways that a weaker deck with lots of less powerful creatures can actually beat like tier 1 constructed decks is you just keep a slow hand and get run over. So luckily this hand is not really that type of hand. We've got our best early blocker. We've got an okay 3-drop that I'm fine trading off. And then we just need to draw like some 4 and 5 drops. So like a Gitrog or a Kalidas would make this hand pretty good. Okay, so we're actually not going to be able to block that. So he is doing a good job of setting up the whole run you over thing. No, it's correct. Yeah, he's correctly attacking with this. Gonna get us down a point. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna play the Sylvan Advocate. I think Languish should be enough because we get to go turn 3, Drown Yard Temple or Woodland, probably Woodland, and then Weirding Wood on the Swamp, and then unless he has an enchantment removal, we get to Languish. So we want to have this Advocate as a blocker to make sure he can't get any of his guys renowned and too big for Languish to kill. Valor and Wardens. Yep. This seems like a reasonable card if you're trying to do the renowned stuff. So this can, yeah. So we're just gonna go to 17 here. Yep, and he's gonna pump. Can this hit blockers? No, okay. All these guys are humans too, so he could make this deck a good bit better with some Thalia's lieutenants, but those probably cost as much as the entire intro pack by themselves. Gather Courage was the last core set, so it's safe to attack. Yeah, I'm glad we're almost done. I'm getting tired. Ooh, we're in trouble. Okay, so that's gonna pump this, kill our guy. Now he gets to renown that guy and draw a card. So we also take a chunk of damage. Okay. I'm just going to Gitrog. I think we want to get the second swamp, so that if he blows up our enchantment, we still have Languish. But there is a very real chance that we can lose this game. Which would be a little embarrassing, but you know, it happens. Knightly Valor. Okay, that's fine. That actually plays into Languish. Like, pretty much any 5-drop that he could play there was going to not play into Languish, so we're lucky that he played one that does. He might attack here. If he does, we get to eat this guy, and then we'll take another chunk of damage. Would like to draw Pulse of Marasa, I think would be a very good one. And I don't think we sideboarded either of them out. Okay. So let's... Do we wanna... I guess I clicked through. I don't think I wanted to sacrifice a clue anyway. Okay, so what's Evolving Wilds? Oh, we're still in the upkeep. We draw a card. Okay, there's Pulse. Sacrifice Evolving Wilds. There's a sunken hollow, so I'm going to get a forest. Let's play the sunken hollow. Let's languish. Let's play Vessel and pass. Okay, so there's a 5/5 angel. Wait, what? Oh, I thought the counter went on the angel. Okay. That's interesting. That's much better for us. That gives us an extra turn of wiggle room. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Draw a card. Traverse. We do not have Delirium, but once we pulse, we will. We have 0 land drops remaining. Let's use Vessel. This can draw us a card. Okay, it's not going to draw us a card. Unfortunate. And let's play an Advocate. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and attack. It's a little bit risky, but like I said before, when you're ahead, you play conservatively. We are not ahead. We need to play a little bit more aggressively. And what we are dead to here is if he has a second Wild Instincts, he can pump this, eat this, and then bash us for exactly 10. He could also give this Flying and bash us for 10. Well, and he'd need to pump it. So like Mighty Leap or something. Beginning combat. Okay. Okay, I am going to block. If he has a combat trick that would let him kill the Advocate, it would probably let him kill me instead, so I'd much rather lose the creature. What? That's not good for him. Why would you even attack if that was your plan? Okay, now we have options. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We can Seasons Past, Traverse, and then Pulse, which I think is a very good turn. So let's go ahead and Traverse. We're going to grab... Actually, you know what? Silumgar is a better 6-drop here. Yeah, I don't know why he would use the Vine Snare that way. Our opponent, like, sometimes you get good players who just don't want to invest money on Magic Online, but that was not a play that a player would make if they were experienced with how to use fogs. Like, you don't attack and then fog when they block. Alright, so that's the match. So we got basically some free play points. So let's go back and look at the deck. So what was good, what was bad? We were a little bit short on removal, especially for Planeswalkers, so it would be nice to have some Ruinous Paths. We got a little bit flooded on mana that one game against the Jund deck, but like we only have 24 lands and the 3 Weirding Woods are all cantrips, so it's not like the Weirding Woods were costing us a card draw at that point. It was just letting us spend mana to get more mana in a card. So I think the mana is at the correct number. Like, we've got 24 lands, 8 things that can find lands but can also find creatures, and then 3 Weirding Woods. Actually, you know what? Let's cut 1 Weirding Wood. Let's put in 1 Ruinous Path. So that keeps the curve the same but gives us a little bit more removal. Other than that, everything else did pretty much exactly what we wanted it to do. I don't think we ever got to cast an Epiphany at the Drown Yard, but it would have been very, very good in that game where we got flooded against Jund. We just didn't draw one. So we're going to leave those in there for now. We'll give them some more chances. The Blighted Woodlands were fine. Like, against the green-white intro pack deck, it would have been better as a Blighted Fin, but everywhere else it was fine as a woodland. The manlands were fine. I think we have the correct number of both of them. Let's look at the sideboard. We never boarded in Virulent Plague or Clipwings, but we did bring in everything else. We could have brought in 4 Pick the Brain against the Jund deck. If we'd gone to Game 3, I probably would have, because Ob Nixilis is so hard for us to deal with. Let's go ahead. Okay, so if you don't think you're ever going to play against the ramp deck, go ahead and replace the 4th Pick the Brain with either another Languish or another Ruinous Path, whichever you feel more comfortable with. Otherwise, I think the deck list is pretty solid. So we did 3 2-mans, we went 2-1. The third match was not really against a competitive deck, but he had a strong opening game too, and we were still able to slow him down due to his misplay with the fog mostly. But yeah, so this is the deck. I'm having a lot of fun with it. If you want, you could play some more Pain Lands and a single waste. You could play like Thought Not Seer if you really wanted to have some 4-drops, or Reality Smasher instead of the Gaia's Revenge maybe, if you just... Like, the Reality Smasher is easier to deal with, but it comes down much faster. And then if you don't like the Epiphanies, you can replace them with other card draw spells, like Read the Bones. I do think the blue splash is worth it for the Dragon Lord and the gate negates. Like you saw several times in those games how Dragon Lord was just very powerful every time it came down and just never seemed to die. You might even want, instead of the fourth pick the brain, a second Dragon Lord Silumgar might be relevant, just because Obnixilis and like Chandra is not as difficult to beat because it's not as good as killing our Gitrogs and stuff, but Obnixilis can kill the Gitrogs and the big trackers and the big Sylvan Advocates. So that's the deck. Thank you for watching the video. I hope to have another video up either later this week or sometime early next week. So stay tuned and check for that.